Hi everyone, I am Chris. This is Simply Classic, and today we're going to take some inspiration and creativity to make something our own using a Simply Classic pattern. So let's take a look at our inspiration piece. This here is a bag by Patricia Nash, and she's got some amazing bags in her fall 2023 collection. So if you have a minute, go over to her site and just kind of take a peek at look at some of the designs. They're really cool. But if you haven't recognized this yet, you will see this is the Julie bag. So this is our version of the Julie, and you can see the similarities almost immediately when you look at this Nash bag versus this Julie bag. So let's talk about some of those differences. So the first and most obvious difference are these kind of pleated sides or gusseted sides. It's not even the right word, the little pulls on the sides. That is actually taking the bag and pulling it in, and I think it's just a really cool effect for this bag. So we are going to do that, and you can see there's grommets there or eyelets, and we are going to install those today. The other thing you'll notice is that the pocket on the Nash bag is actually wider than the pocket on the Julie. So at first I thought I really like that and I'm going to do that in this bag. And then I got to looking at the photo, and if you look at where the handles come into the bag, they are sewn right on the seam of the pocket. That's going to create a lot of bulk for us, and I really didn't like it. So we are going to leave the pocket the same width that we have in the pattern itself. We're not going to change that at all. The other thing that's not so obvious is the measurements on the Julie are 12 inches wide. The Nash bag is 12 1/8, so it's about the same width. The Julie is 11.5 inches high. The Nash bag is 13, so it's a little bit taller. And then the Julie is 4 inches deep. The Nash bag we're looking at here is 5 1/4. So it's a much larger bag. I'm not going to make any of those changes. We're going to keep the Julie just as she is, just to keep the pattern changes down. A little bit of extra height and depth, I don't think is going to make that much of a difference in the bag, yet it would actually entail quite a bit of pattern changes. So we're going to keep with the Julie as it is. The last thing I want to point out in this photo is the side seam. You will see that in the Nash bag there is a side seam, but in the Julie there is none. So again, to help with reduced bulk here at the top, and also to help just minimize the pattern changes, we are not going to make that change. We're going to keep it just as it is here on the Julie. So the pattern changes are very, very minimal. I'm going to show you this other photo right here. This is the top of the Nash bag looking in, and you will see it does not have a zipper placket. It has a magnetic snap. So we're going to do that. We're going to put the magnetic snap in, because what's going to happen is as we pull the little ties on the side, it's going to kind of suck the bag in, I think. I haven't made the bag yet, so we're going to find out. And then it's going to easily snap at the top. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at the pattern changes that we're going to make. First thing I did when I cut out this bag is I took and cut it out exactly as the pattern showed. No difference. Except I did not cut the zipper placket pieces because there's no zipper on the top of this bag. The other thing that I did a little bit differently is the stabilizer on the side pieces. So let's look at that, because we don't want any decadal heavy or light in our side pieces, because we want to be able to pull those little tabs and have the bag pleat or gather. And if we have too much stabilizer, it's not going to do that. So let me start out by telling you I am using this really pretty light blue. We actually have this in 3 colors. We have like a brick red, a light blue, and a darker gray color. This is new on the site, so you might want to check it out. It's really great for the bag because it's very lightweight. So it's going to be a little more domestic friendly than some of the other faux that we have, and it should really be a good option for this bag because it should pleat and gather easy because it is so lightweight. Here's the back of this piece. So what I did was I cut the stabilizer, the width I give you in the pattern, and 7 inches tall instead of what I give you in the pattern. So just take that side stabilizer piece, and I'm going to make sure it's 7, and it is, and cut it off at 7 inches, and then go ahead and fuse it. I marked a 1/2 inch from the bottom, and then I fused the stabilizer right along that bottom line there. The other thing you're going to see is where the connectors go, or the handles go. I added a piece, and I put Decaville light here. I think Decaville light's going to be okay. I'll let you know at the end of the bag. We might want to put Decaville heavy there instead. But for right now, I did Decaville light. This is a piece that's 1 inch by 3 inches. And I went ahead and centered it. You can see the hole right here where we're going to put our strap. And it's just to give it a little bit of extra stability when we put our rivets. Because again, this is so lightweight, I'm afraid it's going to pull through. Now, I did take the liberty of putting one handle on, and I decided not to use the connectors. I just attached the handle directly to the bag. So, of course, I've already made my handles. We're going to do the second one together. But you'll see in the back how when I riveted this on, I have the Decaville on the back end of those rivets, both at the bottom here and at the top. Okay, so that's what the side piece is going to end up looking like. Now, you also see I have a couple of extra pieces. This is Decaville heavy here in the middle. I'm going to show you how to mark for those, and we're going to put those on together because that's where our grommets are going, and we need that extra stability where the grommets are. Okay, so we'll do that together on this piece here. We'll also put that last handle on together on this piece. And then, of course, I have my other handle, which I already made. I cut all my lining pieces just as it says in the pattern, except for, like I mentioned, did not cut the zipper placket. I went ahead and put my lining together already. So I have here a zipper pocket on one side with a smaller slip pocket underneath. On this side, I have my slip pocket, I have a key fob, and as you see at the top, no zipper placket, but I did put a magnetic snap. So do your lining just like the pattern says. You're going to leave the bottom open so we can turn it. And if you have any questions or need a refresher, I'm going to link the Julie pattern to the bottom of this video so you can go back and watch it again if you need to. So I have my side pieces. These are my side, or I shouldn't say my side, my front and back. It's the lining pieces for the pockets with woven fuse on the back. I have the base pieces and the pocket pieces with the Decaville just as the pattern says to do. So you see here you've got a smaller piece on the base, on the pocket itself. It is also a little bit smaller. All of those directions on how to do that are in the pattern, and you can refer back to the original Julie video to see how to do that. I know a lot of you have this pattern, you've already made it, so hopefully this will be a fairly quick hack for you. We have our bottom piece, which I will put some purse feet on there, nothing different with that. The other thing I did was I cut a piece of faux, and this is going to be for those little pull tabs, and I cut it 17.5 inches by 1.5 inches. On the back, we are actually going to fold it. I put a piece of double-sided tape down the center. We'll do this together, but I'm going to fold it just like you do a handle. Fold it so the long edges are going to the center, and then I'm going to fold it again so that we have these little pull pieces. And then once we're done with that, we're going to cut it in half. Okay, so we're going to end up with a little pull piece that looks like this. And when we're done sewing it in and putting it through the grommet, we'll just knot the end and we should be good. These pieces end up being about just shy of 9 inches. So I think that's going to work out perfectly. So we're going to end up having 4 of these. You cut 2 long pieces, make them, and then cut them in half. And we'll do this together. And then the last 2 pieces you have to cut are the keepers. And this is the little tabs on the side that your strings go through to cinch it up. And these pieces are 4 by 2. And I have 2 of those. All right, let's get sewing. Let's work on our little pull pieces and our keepers first. So on the pull piece, I put a piece of double-sided tape right down the middle, and I'm just going to do it just like a handle. Fold this in, and we're going to fold both long sides in, and then we'll fold it again. So essentially what we're looking to do is get a piece that's about 1/4 of an inch wide. So it'll fit through that grommet, that 1/2 inch grommet. So leave, if you can, just a little bit of space between. And then we're going to fold this up and clip. So I'm just folding it from here in half one more time and clipping it. We're just going to do 1 row of stitching on this because it is so narrow. There's really no need for 2. Okay, on the keeper, I'm going to mark, this is a 2-inch piece, so I'm going to mark in about 3/4 of an inch. It's really more like 5/8, but just to kind of give me a guide to fold that first, we're going to fold this in thirds. So I want to fold that first long side over. I'm going to put some 1/4 inch double-sided tape along the edge. Do it on both edges while I'm here. And then I'm just going to peel the backing off and fold this down to the line. This is the side that's furthest away from the line I just drew. And I'm going to take the other side and peel that and match the edge. Just peel and make sure that that edge is right against your bottom edge here. Okay? You do that on this side as well. So this is the edge furthest from the line. I'm going to fold that to the line. And then I'm going to peel the backing off the other side and match that raw edge with the folded edge. So these aren't going to be super big, but they're going to be just enough to hold those pleats or gathers in place. So let's go ahead and stitch. I'm going to use my edge guide, and I'm just going to do 2 rows of stitching like a handle on these, and then 1 row on the longer piece. Make sure you back stitch. And then on this piece, we're just going to do 1. And I'm going to do 1 more stitch on the other side on these keeper pieces. on this longer piece that we just sewed, I'm just going to fold it in half and cut it. All right, so now we have all these pieces. We're going to set them aside for just a minute. Let's measure out where we need to put our little 2 pieces of Decoville Heavy, which is where the grommets are going to go on our side piece. So you're going to measure 3 inches down. Well, first of all, mark your center. Okay, so just mark it with a notch or a pen, whichever you prefer. And then you're going to go 3 inches down and draw a line. Then from the center, we're going to go out an inch and make a little intersecting line on each side. Okay. So when we put our grommets on, the center of the grommet is going to be there and there. So when you put your Decoville Heavy, and I have just some pieces here, you want to make sure first of all that the pieces are big enough that your grommet's going to fit on there. And then you're just going to do the best you can to kind of center these right on these 2 dots, and you're going to fuse them in place. So once you do that, they're going to look like this. Okay, see, those are fused in place. So to make sure I know where to put the grommets, I'm going to remeasure and then go ahead and punch my holes. So before we do that, I'm going to go and fuse these on. We'll go ahead and put our handle on, and then we'll do all our holes at the same time. So I have these 2 little pieces fused on, so let's put the handle on. So from the right side, I'm going to stick the handle up in there in the hole I made. So I actually, and I give you the pattern, in the pattern, the measurements for where to place this handle. You can either do a connector and then put a D-ring, or not a D-ring, a rectangle ring, and then attach your handle to your rectangle ring, or you can do it this way, you attach it directly to the bag. This is my favorite way, so this is the way I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to slide those in, and I'm going to turn this around, and I want to make sure I have 1 inch of the handle above, that I can see 1 inch of the handle in the back here above this slit. Okay, so I can see that. So I'm just going to kind of hold these in place. They're tight in there, so it should be fine. I'm just going to turn it over, and we're going to stitch on the handle. I'm going to show you where I'm going to stitch. We're going to stitch on the handle right below the slit. Don't stitch up here. You're going to stitch down here on the handle itself. And I'm just going to try to stay right in between my top stitching lines on my handle. I'm going to probably do it about 2 or 3 times to make sure I get a good stitch. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the other one and do exactly the same thing. Make sure my handle is straight. So from here, when you flip the handle up, in the back, of course, your little 1 inch pieces are going to go down to the bottom of the bag. And because this faux is so lightweight, there's some tucking. You see how this is kind of tucking up and it's not sitting real straight down? What I'm going to do is take some really sharp scissors, and in the back, I'm going to cut the bottom part at an angle from the tip of the slit down to my stitching line. And that's just going to release that fabric a little bit so that it folds a little better when we fold this handle down. It's not going to bunch up. All right, so you can see, I think, there where I made the slits. There's one here and one there. So it's on the bottom part of the bag. Do the same thing here. I'm just going to my stitch line. Okay, so now when I turn, this is going to sit so much more flat than it did the first time. So from here, I'm going to take my rivet template, or you can take a ruler, whichever you have. And we want to mark from our slit. We're going to mark a 1/2 inch and 1 inch above on the handle itself and a 1/2 inch below. And that's where we're going to put our rivets. So 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and then below we're going to go a 1/2 inch. You do the same thing on this one. All right, let's punch our holes. And to make sure I get the hole straight, I'm just going to punch the holes in the handle first. And then I'm just, from here, I'm not going to go all the way through to the connector. I'm just going to punch it in the main part of the bag first. And then I'll mark the others with my pen. Because sometimes when I go through too many layers, it gets a little crooked. Don't want that to happen. Okay, so now that those are all punched, I'm going to take my marking pen. We get all of the holes out here. I'm going to make sure it's laying nice and flat, and then I'm going to mark through this hole onto the bottom piece of the handle and then onto the top of the bag. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Make sure it's nice and straight, and then mark right through those holes. Go ahead and punch them. So now I'm going to be punching on the 1 inch portion of the handle. And then I'm going to flip this around. And I'm going to make sure I get my handle out of my 1 inch piece of the handle out of the way, and I'm going to now do it on the top of the bag.
The top.
Okay, from here, I'm going to put my rivets in, and I'm going to be using 9mm rivets today that seemed to work pretty good when I did the other side. So we're going to push them all the way through. And then put the backing on. And you'll see that the rivets are in this portion of decaville here. So it's just giving that faux a little extra support. And then we're going to take our press, we're going to press them all in. And this is easier for me to do standing up. So let me all right, so there we have this side of the bag done for the hints. So before we go any further, let's put our grommets in because we're going to need those. We're going to measure down 3 inches and then from the center 1 inch. So 3 inches and then from the center 1 inch and 1 inch. So that is going to be the center of my grommet. So let's make the same markings on the other side. Three inches. And then 1 inch. And 1 inch. Okay, so now let's punch these holes. So I'm just going to take my punching block, and I have a Tandy puncher that I cannot find at the moment. So I'm going to revert back to this pack that I got from Amazon a very long time ago, and it includes a punch the exact right size for the rivets, or excuse me, the grommets. So we're going to use that. So I'm going to put it on the block, get this one out of the way. And I'm just going to center this right on top of where the crosshairs are. And then hammer it in. And this works really well if you have a piece of granite underneath. You really want a piece of granite underneath. I'm not going to drag my granite over here. So I'm going to have to hit it several times. And I think one side of my punch is sharper than the other because I was having a hard time on the other side as well. Okay, so now we have a hole right there on top of that decaville, and this is decaville heavy. So again, kind of get that right in the center. We turn my punch. Here we go. So we have our 2 holes. So we're going to repeat for the other side. So now we have all our holes made. So we're going to take grommets. We're going to need 4 grommets. We're going to install these grommets. Now the grommets, I'm going to use these screw-in grommets that we saw on the website. And they have holes that we're going to also need to make for the screws. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So first, take the little screws out. And then I'm going to put the back on here and center it over the hole. Now, if you're not sure that it's centered, of course, you can look at it from the front, but you really want to make sure you get it nice and centered. Okay. Then from there, I'm going to mark through these holes where I'm going to punch. So let's see if my pencil will do it. You worked on my table. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Center it on there. Mark where the holes go. So you can see little dots, I think, on there. And what I'm going to do is use this punch here and just go to the smallest punch and just punch tiny little holes. And this will help when you go to set these grommets. It should go in perfectly. Let me get all my little holes out here. Okay. So from here, we're going to put, of course, the right side on the right side. I'm going to make sure our little holes align. And then we will screw that grommet on. Oops. Sometimes it takes a second to grab. You got to make sure you get it lined up. The little slippery suckers keep getting away from me. There we go. Once you get it aligned, it'll screw in. And you'll feel it grab. And then you can screw in the other two. And my last screw is here. All right, so if you are using these grommets, you might want to put a little bit of glue on the screws just to make sure they don't fall out. And then when you're through, you're going to have that nice looking grommet there, and you're going to have the decorative in the back to kind of give it some support. So go ahead and put the rest of the grommets and the other 3 grommets in, and then we'll move on. So we have the grommets in. So we're good to go on that. Because remember, these are our side pieces. So these are actually going to fold in like this to form the sides. So let's set these aside for just a second, work on the pocket. And the pocket is no different than how I had you do the pocket in the original pattern. So we're going to take our pocket pieces, we're going to take our lining piece, and the section where the decal belt is farthest from the top of the piece is the top. So we're going to line the lining up with the top. And do the same thing on the other base piece. And we're going to stitch. From here, we're going to open up the lining. We're going to make sure the seam allowance is staying straight up towards the lining, and we're going to top stitch. So now fold so that you're wrong sides together, so your lining and your main piece match at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and clip that. And I'm just going to fold the top down. What's going to happen is that this base piece is going to fold right over the top of your decal belt, give you a nice crisp edge, and then we're going to top stitch. This just prevents our lining from peeking through. You're going to see a little bit of your main fabric on the back of the pocket. From here, I'm going to take my middle base piece. I'm going to make sure the decal belt is at the top, and I'm going to lay the pocket at the bottom. You can match the bottoms up. And then we're going to baste around this pocket. I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other pocket. I have these pocket pieces done, so now we're going to attach our sides. So we're going to need our side pieces, and we're also going to need our little pull string pieces. So let's start with one pocket and one side first. These others side. So you're going to put them right sides together, like you normally would. Go ahead and clip. And then you're going to take one of your pieces here, drawstring piece, and go ahead and put it through your grommet and to the side, just like this. And don't worry about how tight you pull it right now. We'll be able to pull it tight later. And then we're going to go ahead and stitch. You're using the same seam allowance that we use in the pattern. Okay, let's open this up. And now we're going to top stitch. Now we do have a bit of bulk right here where our drawstring pulls in. So just kind of be aware of that as you stitch. You don't want your back of your foot to grab, because we're stitching on our side piece. We're top stitching on the actual side piece itself. So there's where my piece is. I'm going to stick my leather underneath here to protect my vinyl, or my faux here. So that's what we have. So now we're going to attach the other pocket. So grab your other pocket piece, and put it right sides together. You can clip it. And then I'm going to stick my piece in here. Whoops, wrong way. I need to go in this way. And then we're going to stitch. Okay, so now let's open this up, and once again we're going to top stitch.
Like that.
Okay, I'm going to put my leather to protect my faux, and then keep going. So we can kind of start to see this shape. Let's get our other side piece, clip it on. Stick our drawstring in. All the way to the side seam. And stitch. Open it up and top stitch. And we have one side left. So let's go ahead and flip it. And stick this in. Final one. Whoops. Sometimes I feel super strong when that happens. I feel like I squeezed it too hard. And as I come over these, I'm just holding it straight so that it doesn't go crooked. So to top stitch, I'm going to stitch in the tunnel, and I've showed you how to do this before on other videos. We're going to, it's going to be a little hard to see, I know, but we're going to start from the back, pull this all the way up to the front, and start stitching from the top. So I'll go ahead and stitch in my tunnel, and then we'll come back. So I went ahead and top stitched in the tunnel, so everything is good and top stitched and ready to go. We're going to put our bottom on. So let me go ahead and find the center of my pockets because I had not done that yet. And remember, the pockets are the front. So then I'm going to match those center marks. You can go ahead and mark the sides. We do the same thing for the bottom. And before I sew this on, I am going to go ahead and put my feet on. And I will refer you back to the original Julie video for that as well. Okay, so once all the centers are found, put your feet on if you want feet, and then we'll continue on. Okay, my feet are on, and if you've watched my videos in the past, you know I like to put foam on the bottom, on top of the decaville, and I just sew that on, and that just gives the bag a nice cushy feel at the bottom. Just an extra little high-end thing that we can do. So here is the front, right? The grommets are on the side. We have our pocket on the front. So make sure when you put your bottom on, you match your centers with the long side of the bottom going against the pocket.
Okay.
We're going to clip that in place. We're just going to clip it along the two long sides for right now. Now when we sew this, we want to start a 1/2 inch. So basically you're going to outline your decaville because our decaville is a 1/2 inch from the edge of the bottom. So we're going to sew from the corner of the decaville to the corner of the decaville. Don't go to the edge of your bottom piece. You want to stop just short and use your decaville as a guide. So, put this in. Start right there at the corner of the decaville. Do a little back stitch. And then come forward. And then when I get to the other side, I'm going to stop at the edge of the decabill. Okay, I'm going to repeat for the other long edge. Then from here, we're going to make our little slits. So right where you stopped sewing, okay, right there, you're going to, on the bag itself, not on the bottom, you're going to make a little slit up to that point. You're going to do that on all 4 sides. Okay, so you see it's just the bag, not the bottom, and it's right where I stopped stitching. And then once you do that, you're going to be able to fold this bottom over and clip it. And then you're going to be able to stitch that, and it lays nice and flat. So let me flip this side here. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Where it's clipped, I can fold this, matching the centers. Oh, I didn't clip the right spot there. Okay. You clip the bottom instead of the side. Oh, I did it there too. Huh. All right, let me clip the right spot. There we go. Now it'll fall. So you'll know if you don't clip the right spot because it won't fold very well. Actually, I won't fold at all. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead, and when I stitch this, I usually stitch it from the top of the bag. So I'm going to stand the bag up, and I'll kind of lay it down like this. And then I'm going to pick up where I stopped stitching here. Stick that handle in, and then stitch to the other side and pick up where I stopped stitching on the other side. We'll repeat. And then from here, you want to go ahead and trim your seam allowance down. Once everything's trimmed, we'll go ahead and turn the bag. And as I'm turning my bag, I am realizing that I put my handles on wrong. The handles should go from this to this, not this way. So I'm going to remove these rivets. That's kind of crazy. But I'm going to remove the rivets, and I will put the handles on the right way, and then I will re-rivet it, and then we will come back and finish the bag. So see, we all do silly things. Okay, I'm fixed. So what I had to do is just take out one, like I took out this side, and then I took out this opposite side, and then just swung it around. I didn't have to take out all 4. But anyway, I cannot tell you the number of times I have made this pattern and made it like this. And I always put the handles in last. And now I remember why I always put the handles in last. So if you're going to use this method, put your handles in after you turn the bag and you put it all together and then slide them in. Okay, lesson learned. So from here, we are going to go ahead and put our lining together with our bag. So I'm just going to slide this in. Now, if you use this method, you have your handles to contend with. Really not a big deal. You just need to make sure that they're down in the bag. And actually, let me mark the centers of the front and back. I have my centers of my sides marked, but not my front and back. So let me do that real quick. Don't need any more bloopers. So I'm just finding the center of each. And I've already have the center of my lining. So I'll slip that in.
What?
Get those handles in. Okay. Line up the center and clip. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the beginning. I don't think I did. On the upper lining, I usually have you put some Decaville Light, and I did not put anything on this because, again, we want those gathers, and I didn't want anything to prohibit that. I did put some Decaville Heavy behind my snap just to hold that in place so that it wouldn't pull through. So I'm going to match up my sides. Make sure everything's good here. And I'm going to finish clipping all the way around. Just make sure everything's pushed in. So from here, we're going to go ahead and stitch the bag together. So I'm awful close to my magnet. I'm going to have to put my zipper foot on for this. So I'm just going to take off the back piece of my foot and put my other piece on. I'm just going to keep the main piece. It's fine to do that. And it'll just let me get close. All right, perfect. pull the bag out. We're going to fold this in and top stitch. So I am going to say that if I were to do this bag again, because we're taking the zipper placket out and we're adding a snap, I would increase the width of this upper lining because the snap is a little bit too close to the top. And I'm not going to be able to top stitch on top of it. I'll have to go around it. So see how close that is to the top there? You want to probably increase this by about 1 inch and then drop the snap down so it's not so close to the top. So now I'm going to top stitch, and again, when I do so, I'm going to have to leave a spot up here because of the snap where I don't top stitch. So I'm going to do this at the cylinder arm, and I think it's going to be a little bit easier. So I'm going to meet you over there and then we'll finish up. So we're here at the cylinder arm and I'm trying to figure out exactly how to approach this. So I think I am going to have to do this in sections. I'm going to leave my threads really long because I might have to do a couple of hand stitches up here where the magnetic snap is so close. I might try to do that. So I'm going to leave these really long. I'm going to start there in a place where my presser foot won't interfere. And then go around to the other side. So I feel my magnetic snap here. I'm almost to it. So I'm going to go as far as I can, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to leave my threads really long. And I'm going to pick up on the other side. Again, starting out with really long threads. And that's as far as I can go on this side. So again, leave my threads really long. And you'll see where I could not stitch because of the magnetic snap. So I'm going to do some hand stitches with these really long threads across here and the other side to kind of finish the bag. And then we'll go back and finish up these keepers on the side and get the bag, the bottom finished as well. So the bag is now top stitched. And when I say I hand stitched, I literally mean I took a needle and I threaded it on those long threads that I left, and I went in and out by hand to finish up stitching here and here. So I usually use a pair of pliers to help me get the needle in and out of the faux, because obviously it's a little more difficult than cotton, and just kind of take my time with it and do the best I can. So now we're going to close the bag just like we normally would. I went ahead and pulled the lining out of the zipper pocket. I'm clipping it together right now. We're going to stitch it, and then we're going to box our corners. All right, we will trim the seam allowance back. And then I'm just going to box these corners like normal. And then box the other side. Trim that back. All right, let's stuff the lining in, and then we'll close our pocket.
Yeah.
So from here, we'll stick our pocket back in. Now make sure before you do that, that your little ends are still sticking out. All right, so stick this in, and then all we have left is to finish our little keepers, get those on. We should be good to go. We'll see how this gathers up on the sides. Amen. So the lining looks good. All right, for the keepers, what we're going to do is we're going to fold them in thirds. So here's the raw edge. I mean, not that that matters at this point. When we put it on, we want the raw edge to be at the bottom. So I'm going to fold it in thirds, and I'm going to fold it in third again. So now we've got this kind of, I guess we have 3 layers there at this point. And I want to actually just stitch right down the center. Now you can use a rivet here instead if that would help, because this is a lot of thickness right here. So if you don't think your machine's going to do that, go ahead and use a rivet. I'm going to just take a quick measurement here to make sure that I am stitching somewhat in the center. So the piece ends up being about 1.5 inches, and you're going to sew about 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to go back and forth a couple times. So the excess that you have in the back, you can cut that off. You don't really need that. And then if you'd like, you can go ahead and edge coat this piece here, at the very back here. So now we have kind of this figure 8 looking thing. And we're going to stick the edges in and pull them tight. But before we do that, let me go ahead and stitch this one. So we're going to do thirds. It's going to measure about 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to stitch right down the center. Stick these on the bag. Now you might need an awl to help push it through. Let's see how it does. Actually, I want to put it on the other way because that's my raw edge there at the bottom. Okay, we're just going to kind of pull it, and then we're going to tie little knots at the bottom. And then if you want to edge coat the very bottom of this, you can do that as well. Or put a bead. It'd be neat to use pieces of leather here, like if you're going to do a leather bag, those thin 1/4 inch that you can get, and then put beads at the end. That'd be pretty. Might have to do that. Use my pliers to pull this nice and tight. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for this side. These pliers I got, they're just jewelry pliers. And the main thing is that there's no ridges on the inside here. And I use them all the time for things like this, where it's hard to grip. Or to push needles through, or whatever I'm doing at the time. Sometimes it's just hard to grab those little ends with your hand. All right, I see some threads. We can pull these as tight or as loose as we want. And there's our bag. So let's take a look at it a little closer up. So here's the finished bag. So it's the same size as the Julie. When you wear it, it's going to be your same size, but it's just got that little gather on the side. Isn't that cute? So this vinyl was really a good vinyl for it because it was very lightweight. We have some lightweight snake that would work well as well. And then also a black and white geometric that would work really well for this. Because you do want something that's fairly lightweight so that you can gather these edges. So just to kind of recap a couple things. Number one is you definitely want to make your upper lining larger because we're taking the zipper placket out and then this snap gets way too close. So extend it by 1 inch. When you extend your upper lining by 1 inch, you're going to have to take 1 inch off your lining piece, your main lining piece, and then probably drop your pockets down a little bit further. So I definitely recommend doing that. Other than that, as far as stabilizers and all, I think everything worked out well. You could certainly make these a little bit longer if you wanted to. And as I mentioned, put some kind of decorative bead or something on there. I think that would be super cute. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. It is the Julie hack. And until next time, happy sewing.